So for this section of the lecture, I'm going to be talking to you guys about eyes and eye lighting. Eye lighting is absolutely essential to solid character lighting. It has its own kind of unique set of rules and guidelines. Oftentimes you will, or I find myself lighting the eye completely separate from the rest of the character and kind of having their own eye lights. I mean, obviously the same general key position is the same and all of the fundamentals are the same, but the way we're going to go about doing certain things is going to vary. So the first thing that we need to understand before we start discussing lighting an eye is just to discuss the anatomy of an eye. So the main three sections that we're going to be looking at is actually there are four sections that we're going to be dealing with the eye. There is the outer white section here, the whites of the eyes, that is the sclera. From there we move in here is the iris, or the colored portion of the eye. And then finally we have the pupil in the middle. I'm sorry, that's the third. And the fourth is actually the cornea. The cornea is the little bulb that exists out here outside of the eye. It's a transparent protective film that is very, very wet. Your tear ducts keep it wet, and then therefore it's very reflective. So lots of times in eyes you'll see, reflections of the surroundings, reflections of your environment, and we oftentimes in eye lighting will position those in a way that it's aesthetically pleasing. Those are the eye dings. Whenever you hear someone refer to eye dings, they're these little white, not always, bright colored speck hits in the eye that kind of, and you'll see it when we add it. It kind of really finishes the eye off and gives the character good soul and really allows the audience to connect with your character, because again, your audience is going to look at your character's eyes probably first. That's just kind of natural human instinct. When we see a face, we immediately go to the eyes. So it's really good to have those nice and believable. So the other big thing to understand about the anatomy of the eye is the fact that it's made up of, if you think about it in terms of 3D objects, it's made up of two kind of spheres. There is this inner sphere, which goes around here and then is concave in this area here. This whole outer portion is the sclera, or the white of the eye, and then once you kind of go down in here and back up again, that's the iris, and then the pupil lives right in the middle. So it's interesting because this is concave in here in the iris area, it's actually going to be getting it creates an effect where the illuminated side of the sclera and the face and everything else, maybe from the right, the illuminated part of the iris needs to be the opposite of that, because it's concave in. The angles mean that it's just the opposite. It's facing the normal of that eye is facing a completely different direction. So again, so you'll have a key light here, and then coming on this side. So this will be bright, and then this will get dark, and then this counter side will get bright. Here's an example of that. So we've clearly got the light source here on the right hand side of the photograph. So we've got light coming in here. It passes over top of this area, which is going down into the cave, and hits the opposite side of it coming back up here. So there's going to be good shaping. It's always very soft coming across there. So that's why that's important, because you want to get that opposite, that counter ding going, or the counter illumination going on the iris. So when we talk about lighting for the eye, there's some visual cues that we need to look for. The first of which is that the three main colored portions of the eye are each visible and distinguishable from one another. We want to be able to distinguish the whites from the eyes, from the sclera from the iris to the pupil, and just make sure all three are reading correctly. And if they're not, then we want to make sure to link lights or create materials that are successful enough for those to allow those areas to do that. The other thing again is the eye ding here, because you can see this is the cornea really does reflect quite a bit of everything. You know, you can see the sky here, the silhouette of the photographer, and you can start to see some other kind of trees up in this area in here. So definitely something to keep in mind. Here's just another example of getting some good eye-dings. For your eye-dings, there's some, you know, you can kind of do what you want with them. We're gonna be doing some more artificial, just kind of like a point light, you know, like more of a hard circle for ours. But you can definitely do these more bright patches of the reflection map in the eye to get the ding too. But some things about the ding to know that I like to do is I always kind of like to keep it somewhere in the neighborhood of around 2 o'clock. If you know if the pupil here was a clock, you want it either at 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock, somewhere in here. And then I always try and keep it on a border, either you know the border between the pupil and the iris, or from the iris to the sclera. I find that just looks a little bit more appealing. And as soon as you dip it down below the horizon line of the eye, it starts to look a little weird. So again, a little bit upper left, a little bit upper right. It's pretty generic, but I find that works well. I just wanted to point this out to you guys. Whenever you're whenever you're doing the eye thing, it's good usually from an aesthetic point to just kind of keep one solid eye ding in there and not kind of go crazy with. This is a TV show where every time I see it, it kind of drives me crazy. So this is I'm finishing the sample images with a bad example. So this one, you know, the eye is very gray. You're not getting the pupil sclera separation. It's all kind of black in there. And you're also getting all of these eye dings in there. And I always find that so distracting. So I just saw this is from a children's cartoon show, and I just wanted to point that out, that this is what happens when you don't kind of pay close attention to the eye. So now we're going to jump over into Maya and start doing our highlighting. So we've got this. I basically just isolated one of Simon's eyes just so we can work with it independently. You know, again, we've got we've got it modeled in a way that that is helpful. So we've got the eye white here, the sclera. Over top of that, we've got the lens, the cornea on top. I also have a little. I also set this up just now, so we can turn this off and select our inner part of our eye. So we can select the pupil and the iris. So let's go ahead and turn this lens back on. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and kind of create our key light and just see where that gets us. So we're going to create a light, we create a spotlight, look through it, and then we're just going to kind of position this, you know, just for this example purposes, we're going to kind of position this up and to the right. Normally you would just, you know, maybe duplicate, you know, this would probably just be your normal key light. So we'll go ahead and just put this right on up here. So again, this is our key light. So we're going to have it do some shadow casting as well. Let's see. So we're just going to, where are we? Passed it. So basically we're just going to set up some ray trace shadows here in this guy. Wow, that was more difficult than it had to be. Soften it just a little bit. Now, you know what, we'll keep it hard for now and just see where that takes us. So now we'll go back to this, take a look at what we got now. So again, we're starting to kind of see what I was talking about in the other one. So, you know, just by adding that one light, we're really kind of seeing this counter ding region, because again, the light's coming in from this side. Here's the specular hit that's happening there. But one thing I am noticing is that the eye white section isn't really getting as illuminated as this, because I actually think this is in a pretty good spot from an illumination standpoint. Like, I think, you know, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good dark area in here. I actually don't like this eye thing where it is, but I kind of like the illumination here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this light that we just created is only affecting the iris. We're going to make a separate one for the sclera and have that be a little bit brighter. And then we're also going to create, because like I said, although this is a good shape and has some good softness to it, it's a pretty good size actually. I want it to be right here on the edge, and I don't want it to be out there. But if I position that there by moving the light, then this probably gets into a place that we don't like. So, although, you know what, let's push this around a little bit, see if we can't get just a little bit more shaping out of it. Back into this just a little bit. Go back, save it, let's check it out. That might be too much. Yeah, I think we actually may have gone the wrong way. I think I liked it better the way it was. So I hit the left bracket key to go back to the last position. So I think we're good there. So again, the thing that we want to do here is we want that light that we just created. Let's grab it here and call it. So now this is going to be our iris key. And so now we only want it to affect the iris and not everything else. With this model, it's with any rigged character, sometimes it gets tough to diagnose the individual object because it's buried beneath group after group after group to accommodate the rig. So again, in this case, we just want to turn off the light linking between that light source and the lens here. So in relationship editors, we have light linking. We'll do light centric, that's fine. So the dialog box will pull up here. So again, we've got the iris key. And so I want to know, but like if I looked at this right now, I'm not seeing anything that shows a, I just see the Simon body from where, because I kept it the way it was, as if the whole character was in this. So in order to understand where this is, you just select it, and then I continuously hit the up key, and then just watch the result down here, because basically this will go through each group. So it's inside the left eye, inside Simon eye left, inside Simon head 0, neck 1, neck 0, roll 0, neck 0, spine 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, inside the pelvis, inside the world. Okay, so the world is the top, or the rig final is the top God node. Whew, that's an exhausting search. Okay, but you know what? That happens sometimes. So we'll climb through it. So it said the top one was Simon rig final, so we'll go to that. Simon world. It was inside the pelvis, inside the spine. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is like a game of memory. It is then within the neck 0, and then inside that weird neck roll, and then inside neck 1, inside head 0, and here we are, almost. We've got eye left and eye right. Oh, no, where'd eye right go? Yeah. Simon eye left. Oh yeah, I guess eye right's deleted. Okay, so we've got, because we're only using one eye. Okay, so now we keep breaking this down. Here we go. We've got eye white, iris, pupil, and cornea. Woo! All right. So we don't want it to affect the eye white. So let's select eye white, and then crazy. Okay, and then okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so back to where we were. So we have the iris key selected. We only want it to affect the iris. So let's deselect these guys and everything else for that matter. So again, just the iris. Okay, so it's not affecting the eye white, the pupil, or the cornea, just the iris. So now if we go back, and I would minimize that window, because if you just close it, then what ends up happening is your, every time you go into it, you'll have to mine back down to that region. So there we go. So now we've only got the light illuminating just this area. So now we want to set up a separate one for the sclera on the outside. So we want to keep it in the same position as that iris key. So let's just Control D, duplicate that, change the name to sclera key, and we're just going to increase that intensity for now, because again it was just too dark before. Let's just double it to 2, pull it up, render it, because again it should be in about the exact same spots. Boom. It is looking pretty good, because again we want to get some good, like any sphere or anything else, we want to just get some good left to right shaping across it. But as you can see now, it's once again affecting the cornea and the iris as well. So same deal. We'll just go in and now select sclera key, turn off iris, pupil, and cornea, and then just run it again real quick, and we should see that that should only be affecting just the outside of the eye here. There we go. So now before, after. Okay, now one thing that I am noticing about this, and this happens sometimes with spheres, is that we're kind of getting this harsh line on the edge here. Now, one way to fix that is a little trick that I've picked up from another lighter, and it's basically to create a second. Basically, you want to make the key light a little bit larger at its source, so it wraps around it a little more, so it's not quite such a harsh, line. It's how we get, it's like, think of the sun shining on the earth. There's a really hard edged line all around the earth all the time, where it's day and night. If you ever look at any, satellite imagery of the earth or anything like that. So again, the way to combat that is we're going to make a duplicate of the sclera key, and the term that we'll use for it is, it's a key wrap, because it'll wrap around the object just a little bit more. And so basically what we want to do is, let's double check our light linking on that to make sure the relationship is still the same. And actually it isn't, so because whenever we create it, a new light, it always defaults to illuminating everything. So we'll just deselect it back down to the eye white. And for the key light, we want, for that main key light, we still want that to be the main illuminating source. So I generally give that 2/3 of the intensity value that we want to give the overall light. So I make that roughly 1.3 and make the key wrap rough, 0.7. So when those two add up together, the 1.3 and the 0.7, they equal 2. So we still need to reposition it, so let's select it and then look through selected. And again, we just want to pull it around just a little bit more. Let's try right there. And again, what we're going to see, hopefully, is that hard line kind of go away. Let's see what we got here. So you can definitely see it softened it up a little bit, so it's not quite as harsh. So yeah, we'll leave that there for now. So again, now we've got the sclera lit with nice shaping going across it from left to right. We've got the iris lit, where it is the counter side of the the key side. Now we're going to position our eye ding. So for the eye ding, again, I kind of want to position it right to where there's a nice little circle right about here on the edge of the pupil and iris separation on the key side. And again, I want to keep it up around this 10 o'clock range. So, go ahead and I'll just duplicate this iris key, and then we'll call that eye ding. And for eye ding, we will have it linked only. Oh, wrong one. We'll only link it to the cornea because we only want it affecting the outside of that eye and just picking up that little bit of a ding. So something else about that is that the ding is strictly specular, so we don't need diffuse. So we'll go ahead and turn emit diffuse off on our eye ding light, and then we will look through the selected. And if you remember from where the light was earlier, when we just had the iris key on everything, it was a little bit too far away from it. So we'll go ahead and pull this around here, and then we'll check to see how that looks. So we'll save, run it, and let's see where we are. Okay, so we're getting in the place. We just need to go and kind of go up and to the right a little bit. Go up, oh, that's a lot, and to the right just a little bit. And now we'll just select, try to just select the region that we're going to need so the render would go faster, but that's okay. It's going pretty fast on its own. And, just a little bit more to the left, and we're good. Okay, rotated it over there. So it's just that area. Okay, and I feel pretty good about that, except for maybe, I want the ding to be just a little bit bigger. So, but the tricky part of that is that is actually in the best way to adjust that is actually in the material attribute. So if you select the cornea here a little bit, you go into the material attribute, and you'll turn up the specular shading, turn up the cosine power to be a little bit, actually a little bit less. We'll make it bigger. So we'll check that now. There we go. So now it's just a little bit bigger. I like that. Okay, we're going to leave that for now. But we are also missing one big key element. Again, the cornea is going to, and actually the eye white as a whole, because the cornea kind of goes all the way around it, is going to be very reflective, and we're kind of missing an environment map. So the way that I like to create an environment map, and I'm sure there are other ways to do this, is that I like to create a sphere that will act as to simulate like a surrounding environment. So we map an image to a sphere and do that. So let's make a sphere here, and we will place that around the eye. And basically, we don't want this sphere to be an actual sphere that's rendering in the scene. So we're gonna go into its render stats here, and we're gonna turn off a lot of its basic functionality. So we're gonna have it not cast shadow. We're not gonna have it not receive shadows, because we don't want any cast shadows on it. We don't want it blocking any of the lights. We don't want any motion blur on. We want to turn primary visibility off, shading. But we do want it to be visible in reflections. And just for our visualization purposes, we will take it off double-sided and flip it to opposite. So now we can just go ahead and see right through it. And we'll want it to be kind of centered around the center of the eye. Now the key is to add a is to add a material for it that includes the map, includes an image map. So let's right click, assign new material. Um, for an image, um, for an image map, you can just keep it flat. You can just use like a shading map or something, I guess. And we'll just change the color to, we'll bring in a file. So it's under 2D textures, we'll bring in a file, and then pull in, I just have a reflection map of just like a mountain, sky, and water. So we'll just go ahead and pull that in. And now that will be our material on the sphere. And again, since we've got all the primary visibility and everything else turned off, let's just go ahead and see what it looks like right now. Re-render this. So we're not really. I think it's kind of affecting the. Yeah. So we're starting to see a little bit in here, but we're not really seeing it on the whites of the eye. And again, the geometry of this, there's different ways that you can model this, but it looks like, yeah, for Simon, the lens is only covering the iris and pupil, but we want it to be the whole white. So we'll go ahead and grab the eye white here, and we'll increase the reflectivity as well on this guy. So we'll increase that from 0.05 to 0.5, and let's just see what that looks like. So we're starting to see a little bit of the reflection, but I'm just not, you know what, I'm not liking the surface shader on this. Let's go ahead and we'll add a new material. We'll just make it a Lambert, because right now it's looking like it's just kind of a solid color being piped in there. Change this to a Lambert, and under color, we will go ahead and add that same image file again. Just see how well that looks. So again, we've got the image in there. This should work a little better. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so now we're starting to really see the reflection map in there. Not so much on this side, but we are definitely seeing on that side. And turn smooth shading back on. And you can rotate this around, and this will affect the position of the reflection map. Because again, you basically want to be wary of where your seam is, because the map will wrap around the sphere a little bit, and you want to keep that away from the reflected angle. So this might be, now that we're seeing this might be too high of a reflection on the sclera in here. So we'll go ahead and turn that down just a bit. And yeah, so let's grab this and let's go ahead and turn down this reflectivity, kind of split the difference, kind of go to 0.3. Kind of want this, let's see what that looks like. So yeah, so now we're starting to, kind of really feel the environment in the area here. We're getting a little bit of the ding, we're getting the counter ding. So again, this is just the start of how to get it set up. There would be more adjusting that would take place here. Um, but again, this is the basic setup of an eye light. You know, you want the counter ding, you want separation between all three values. Um, you know, we would want this sclera to be a little bit whiter. It's kind of gray and dingy right now, but we'd go ahead and increase that a little bit more. But for the time being, you know, you get the idea of where we're going with this. We got the reflection map over everything, the ding, the pupil, the sclera. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions, just let us know. And from here, we'll be moving on to the next step, which will be our full character lighting with over a background plate.